Welcome back to the Audrey series. So we've talked a lot about authenticity, we've talked about feminism, we've even talked about Beyonce, as we should. Everyone should be talking about Beyonce. But I also wanted to talk about the limitations of this project. And as opposed to the feminism video, where I was listening to a lot of Destiny's Child, I wrote this video while listening to Neil Young, so I will apologize if it seems more solemn or Canadian than my other videos. I've made my fair share of essentialist, perhaps, and universal claims in the Audrey series, so I wanted to acknowledge the limitations of the scope of the project, my own limitations as well as Cecily's limitations. I've talked a lot about the internet, and I've talked a lot about women in the internet, and comedy and women and the internet, and here's the thing. I am a straight, white, highly educated, upper middle class woman. And I come from a town that Wikipedia tells me is 96% white. I am in no way qualified to speak on behalf of all young women on the internet. I would argue that no one is particularly qualified to speak on behalf of all young women, no one person anyway, but I particularly, I think, am not qualified. Or I feel the need to say that because I made a project that is largely concerned with female representation on the internet. And Oscar Wilde perhaps wouldn't have had to grapple with these questions that I've grappled with throughout the creation and formation of this project. But the internet really exploded our worldview. Adrienne Brown and Mary Thomas talk in their article about the internet's ability to help queer teens to reconfigure their identities and to reconfigure dominant understandings of identity formation. They see the internet as having extreme potential in its ability to help people to come up with a new way of understanding identity formation that isn't tied to heteronormativity. So basically, you could be the only queer person in your town that you know of, but the internet lets you see that you aren't the only queer person in the world. That's certainly the ideal, but as Brown and Thomas point out, they found in their examinations of queer teens' use of MySpace that queer teens were actually using the tools of heteronormativity in order to explore their own queer identities. So the tools of heteronormativity are so pervasive in self-definition that these queer teens didn't know another way to self-define without using them. And Brown and Thomas focus particularly on queer women sexualizing themselves on MySpace. I've talked before about how the internet is this tool for women to be in control of their own sexualization, finally, and to be in control of their own commodification. But as Brown and Thomas show us, the internet is still limited by the ideals of white heteronormativity. And my videos are kind of contributing to the problem. Now, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have created these videos or that they don't have any value. It's just kind of a yes, but situation. Yes, my videos are a feminist reimagining of the importance of being earnest, but they can't even begin to speak to a universal truth about feminism or even young women. Cecily didn't have to be white, and neither did any of the other characters in my videos. But I am white, and I created the videos, and society generally looks poorly, and rightfully so, I would add, society generally looks poorly on those that change their race for theatrical purposes. I have to acknowledge the white heteronormative hierarchy that my project plays into. Because while I do challenge the traditional ending of a comedy, or more specifically a romantic comedy, by not making Ernest Cecily's way forward, they don't get married, Cecily doesn't include him as her means to the future, I can't really say that I'm upending heteronormative hierarchies. My project validates a faction of femininity that's easy to disregard or to criticize. And I'm really proud of that. But no project is without its limitations, and I thought it was important that I acknowledge mine.